Another thing I observed is the guy at the front with the beard, when he got up, you hear the girl, I'm guessing Winter, saying, mm-mm. And then the guy who's holding the camera saying, come here.
Mexican authorities issued an arrest warrant for an American woman suspected of killing 25-year-old Shanquella Robinson of Charlotte, North Carolina, late last year in Mexico, and now want the suspect extradited back to the country to face charges. Prosecutors in the state of Baja California Sur did not publicly name the suspect according to the Associated Press, but did share that they have been in contact with diplomats and Mexican federal prosecutors to return her to Mexico. Authorities haven't specified what charges the suspect could be facing, but new information reaching our desks suggests that the Mexican investigators lack crucial evidence tying the Cabo 6 to Shanquella's death. So, does this mean they will all walk free? And what has the victim's family said? Let's find out. This latest development follows weeks of agony for Robinson's family, who have yet to receive sufficient answers about how their daughter traveled to the resort city of San Jose del Cabo, Mexico, on October 28th with 6 friends to celebrate one of their birthdays and was found dead less than 24 hours later. All those friends have since returned home. A local Mexican prosecutor, Daniel de la Rosa Ania, told ABC News that Shanquella's death was being treated as femicide, the act of killing a woman based on her gender. This case is fully clarified. We even have a court order, de la Rosa Ania said. It wasn't a quarrel, but instead a direct aggression. It's about 2 Americans, the victim and the culprit. Hearing the news for the first time, Shanquella's mother, Salamandra, told ABC that she couldn't be more pleased. I feel so good, she said. That's what we have been waiting for someone to finally be held accountable and arrested. I just can't wait for justice to be served. The latest revelation that Mexican authorities have no tangible evidence on the suspects will surely heartbreak the bereaving mother. Just ahead of Thanksgiving, in an interview with NBC News, Salamandra Robinson said she is especially appreciative of the dozens of Black social media users who made sure the case got the attention it deserved. I never thought she wouldn't get justice because we were going to try to go all the way, she said. But I appreciate everything that everybody's done. However, you've played a part in it. Initially, Shanquella's mother was told by friends on the trip that her daughter had died from alcohol poisoning. They said she wasn't feeling well. She had alcohol poisoning, Salamandra told WSOC-TV, recalling an anxious call she got from one of her daughter's friends. They couldn't get a pulse. Each one of the people that were there with her was telling different stories. But for Salamandra, none of the details added up. She had just talked to her daughter on the Friday evening when Shanquella arrived in Cabo before the group had dinner plans, and hours later, she was dead. It wasn't until she received an autopsy report from the Mexican Secretariat of Health that the family learned Shanquella had suffered a broken neck and a cracked spine. No mention of alcohol was included in the report. It is pretty shocking that the investigators cannot link the suspects to the cause of death. The news of Cabo 6 walking free will add more pain to the family that has already experienced the worst past few months of their lives. Even after the group of friends had returned home from the trip, it took another 2 weeks and $6,000 in transportation fees for Shanquella's body to be returned to the family. 2 additional weeks passed by before Gerald Jackson, a blogger in North Carolina, published video footage that he alleges shows a woman attacking Shanquella. In the video, a woman appears to repeatedly punch the young influencer as she tries to regain her balance. A voice off camera tells her to at least fight back. All this evidence is still deemed insufficient to prosecute the now infamous Cabo 6. Even Shanquella's mother recognized the other people in the video as the people on the trip with her daughter, and she believes it was captured in Cabo. How could they do this to my baby? Shanquella's father, Bernard, lamented. The victim's sister, Quillalon, created a GoFundMe account to help the family cover legal fees and funeral expenses. In less than 2 weeks, it had raised more than $380,000 with several celebrities donating large sums, including Kyrie Irving and businessman John Ledger. Salamander believes all the friends on the trip deserve to be arrested, and news that investigators lack crucial evidence will torment her for years to come. I would like to see each one of them sent back to Mexico because their plan was to come back here thinking that they weren't going to be prosecuted, she told ABC News. She was a caring person, and I want them to always remember that. We're going to keep her legacy alive. The legal and political issues surrounding the case leave a lot up in the air, and it is unclear how officials in the U.S. will proceed. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, the process is typically a very long one, particularly the phase of surrender or extradition, if granted. Officials have to decide whether the arrest warrant issued by Mexican authorities has merit and whether to extradite a U.S. citizen for a crime committed against another U.S. citizen in a foreign country. If a U.S. arrest warrant is issued, the defendant in a case such as Robinson's can fight extradition and ask to be tried in the U.S. The State Department declined to comment on whether or not they would extradite the suspect. Extradition between states or nations is the process of one government sending a suspect to another government in order to face criminal charges, go to trial, or be imprisoned. All these, however, can only happen if there is sufficient evidence linking the suspects to the crime committed. So far, authorities in Mexico have not publicly released the name of the person on the arrest warrant. An arrest warrant specifies criminal charges against someone and provides law enforcement officers the go-ahead to make an arrest. One news outlet in Cabo has reported, based on an unnamed source, that one person on the trip with Shanquella has been detained in the U.S. Our sources have checked police and court public records, local, state, and federal, both in and outside of North Carolina, and found no confirmation that the person rumored to be the suspect has been taken into custody or placed under arrest, something that Shanquella's family won't welcome with open arms. Former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer recently spoke about Shanquella's case, shedding more light regarding arrests, evidence, and possible extradition. Coffindaffer said an arrest likely hasn't taken place yet. Despite the rumors, she said there's a problem with reports circulating that Interpol arrested a person connected to Shanquella's death. Interpol is mainly a communication network that shares information regarding fugitives between countries. It does not handle arrests, the former investigator said. Interpol communicates information regarding suspects and fugitives via red notices. From the time authorities in Mexico announced a warrant was drawn through December 6, a red notice from Interpol had still not been issued for a suspect in Shanquella's death. News reaching our desks indicates that Mexican authorities requested a suspect be extradited from the U.S. to Mexico to face charges of femicide in Shanquella's death. The U.S. and Mexico have a treaty in place from 1978 that allows for this. The request is investigated by the Department of Justice and eventually sent to the State Department for final approval. But because of the treaty, what happens next is more of a political issue than a legal one, says a criminal defense attorney. The lawyer said more often than not, the U.S. will comply with a country it has a treaty with when it comes to extradition requests, and maybe that is the elephant in the room in Shanquella's murder investigation. If the authorities in the U.S. deem it appropriate, then they will pursue the people for whom the arrest warrant was issued, says the lawyer. And then those people will engage in a legal process here in the U.S., which involves going through the federal courts and then ultimately appealing the extradition decision to the Secretary of State. Also, before authorities in the U.S. arrest someone wanted in another country, the FBI will investigate to determine if there is sufficient cause for the person to be extradited. However, determining the cause doesn't mean that the FBI will investigate and double-check Mexico's criminal investigation. Shanquella's grieving family has not responded to requests for comment regarding the arrest issue. But in several interviews, they say they are desperate for answers from the so-called friends who traveled to Mexico with her, who online activists have dubbed the Cabo 6. San Jose del Cabo, a port town on the southern tip of Baja California, is a tourist hotspot that attracts around 3 million international visitors annually. Known for its white sand beaches, turquoise water, and lively nightlife, Cabo is a favorite of young American travelers searching for adventure. For now, the fate of the so-called Cabo 6 is hanging in the balance, but the whole world is watching to see if justice will be served. And that's it from us today. Until next time, bye.